you have the Polish First Army under General Zygmunt Berling, who arrive in Warsaw, and they actually enter the district across the river, the Praga district. By September 11th, they have managed to secure control of large parts of that district. And on the 9th of September 14th and 15th, more than 1,000 of them managed to cross the river and link up with the insurgents on the other side of the river. However, this moment was also not great for it, as the insurgents at that moment, they only held on to a very small bridgehead on the riverbank by the Czerniaków-Powiśle area. Initially, during the first weeks of the uprising, the insurgents controlled almost the entire riverbank, so it would have been much easier to cross earlier on if there had been a push towards the Praga district, which wasn't really held by any strong German units at the time. They were fighting against the Soviet Red Army further away from Warsaw, north and south. But in the vicinity of Warsaw itself, and especially on that Praga side, the German units weren't really that strong at all. So if we do contrafactic history, then it would have been a good opportunity to do that crossing earlier on. Unfortunately, after 3 days, it becomes apparent that this crossing is failing. There is only limited Soviet air support and artillery support for their own troops, because Zygmunt Berling's army is subordinated to the Red Army. And they decide, then the surviving members of Berling's army decide to head back across the river again. And this was the only direct aid that the Soviets sent to the Warsaw Uprising. And it is quite likely that in reality it was very much a decision taken by Zygmunt Berling himself, without consultation with his Soviet superiors. Soon thereafter, he's actually replaced from his position and is taken away from Warsaw. So it became even more apparent for the Poles that the Soviets, they really are not trying to help here. The Americans and the British, especially the British, the Americans are a little bit more reluctant. They decide on sending more and more help when it comes to parachuting aid to the Poles. Churchill famously suggests to Roosevelt that the Americans and the British, they should send even more planes, and planes that don't need to turn back immediately and fly back across occupied Europe, because this fact that they need so much fuel to be able to make that trip from southern Italy, from the airbase in Brindisi, all the way across the Balkans and to Warsaw, drop some material aid, and then head all the way back. It means that they can't bring so much weapons with them. If they would instead be able to land on the other side of the river on Soviet-controlled territory, refuel, and then return, for example, through through the Soviet Union and down to Allied-controlled Middle East through Iran or Iraq or any other destination, then, well, they wouldn't be facing German air defenses on the way back, and they would be able to bring a lot more weapons. So they could send also more planes. This was an idea of Churchill that Roosevelt thought was too much of a gamble, or rather not the idea itself. It was just that the Soviets, they didn't issue any permits for the Allies to land. And Churchill was of the opinion that, well, if we send a couple of dozen or even hundreds of planes, and once we are across, and we inform the Soviets when we are up in the air already that we are coming, simply that no matter what you do, we're going to try to land on your airfields. Either you let us do that, or you'll shoot down our planes, it would force Stalin's hand to reveal just how anti the uprising he would be, because it would be unlikely that he would actively shoot down Allied planes, putting the entire alliance at risk. But at the same time, Roosevelt also doesn't want to put the alliance in risk, and he feels that trying to force Stalin's hand in such a way could entail some form of risk for the alliance. So he shoots down the proposal made by Churchill, and that never comes to fruition. The insurgents in Warsaw, they keep on fighting, but throughout the month of September, it becomes more and more desperate. And early on in October, it's obvious that the uprising has been lost. They enter into negotiations for another time, the Poles and the Germans, that is. And on October 2nd, they strike a deal that from the next day, October 3rd, there will be an armistice, and there won't be any more shooting. The Poles will capitulate. The members of the Home Army will have to go into camps for prisoners of war in Germany, and they will have to hand over all their weapons.
Adam, as usual, we've come to the end of the segment, so I'm going to have to ask you to pause there, but we'll pick it up next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not, if you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll continue the story. In the meantime, thank you for watching Poland Daily History, and we look forward to seeing you next time.